Episode 305 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I'm back. Did I miss anything? Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret proceedings.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I am at Chris Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn, NY, and Instagram at ChristopherHahn.com. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, and telling your friends about this podcast. So I was away for a couple of weeks. Hope you missed me. I know I missed talking to you. It's great to get out of the country, which is what I did, and really kind of disconnect because you're like 7 hours ahead. You're in different time zones, so people are sleeping when you're awake and you're sleeping when they're awake, and there's a couple hours in between where everybody's up. But I took the opportunity to really disconnect politically, and there wasn't a lot going on when I left, right? There was a little scandal happening, the Epstein scandal, if you will. And I enjoyed kind of watching that as I left. I was shocked that it was still a thing when I got back. Absolutely 100% shocked. But there it was. It was still a thing when I got back. Here's the thing about it. It is purely a creation of the right. It is not a left-wing phenomenon. The Epstein scandal is something that Trump and his supporters brought on all by themselves, right? Because they were promised some files that would show everybody they hated in it. But what you might suspect is that the files might have some people they love in it, including Donald Trump, who, you know, is known to have been a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Now, look, America, I want to be very clear from the start. I am not suggesting that Donald Trump did anything illegal with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying he's a pedophile, as they would be accusing any Democrat on that list. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that Donald Trump's a man who doesn't like to be embarrassed. Donald Trump's a man who will do anything in his power to avoid even the smallest bit of embarrassment, even though he has been embarrassed many times. I mean, we remember what lengths he went through with the Stormy Daniels matter. We remember that, right? I mean, I know you do. I do. He surely does. So when 2 weeks ago or a month ago, Pam Bondi says, I've got the Epstein list, it's on my desk, and then it doesn't come out, you could understand the frustration of his supporters. Now, look, it's 6 months into the Trump presidency. It feels like 6 years, right? 6 months. Sunday was 6 months of Trump as president for the second time. I don't think that Epstein is going to be on the top of minds of voters next November during midterms. I don't think when people are sitting around the table wondering how they're going to pay their bills, they're going to be saying, oh, who is on that Jeffrey Epstein list that Donald Trump didn't want us to see? Like, ask yourself the question. I mean, who has he ever protected other than himself? Nobody, not even his kids. So let's just leave it at that. And you could just determine for yourself. And again, I'm not saying that being on the list is any indication that you did anything wrong. But I don't think it's an issue. I don't think that's an issue Republicans should worry about. What they should worry about is the, 2 to 3, maybe 4% of their base that is now going to be disillusioned by Trump and will probably not come out in the midterms. Because they will be saying, God, I thought he was different. Turns out he was just like everybody else in Washington. They got to him. Somebody's floating a theory that he's being held hostage by somebody over this. There's some compromise over him, or there's something going on. Some reason, some noble reason for him not doing it. But, some of them are saying the guy's talking to us like we're idiots, right? That Donald Trump is treating us like we're idiots. And they're not liking it. I mean, the way he is talking to his supporters is like, if you want more on this, you don't think I'm telling you the truth, then I don't want your support. He doesn't need their support. He's not running in November of 2026. Republicans in the House and Senate are. And in some states where Senate races are decided by 3 or 4 points, losing 3% of your base, 2% of your base makes it harder, especially in a midterm. In some House races that were decided by a handful of votes, if you lose 2% of your turnout on your base, you can't win. So, keep in mind, again, as I always say, this is not about him and his election. It's about what it does. Voters are already, looking at this country as being on the wrong track. Now, Republicans are with Trump still, though. Basically, 90% of Republicans still support Trump. He's, at 58% approval if you average the last couple of days of polls. 58% disapproval. But he still has his base. And that's all House Republicans care about. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am your host, Chris Hahn. I'm at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn, NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Those are my socials. Hope you are, downloading. If you're not listening to me on the Aggressive Progressive podcast as we speak, I hope you do it. And if you are listening to me on the Aggressive Progressive podcast as we speak, I hope you're telling your friends about my podcast because it is growing a lot. I took 2 weeks off. We'll see what that does to the growth. I had to disconnect. I mean, I think we all need to do it, but I was going through it, man. I mean, it's just been a rough couple of months, and I really needed the break. And I went to Europe, had a blast. I went to Greece, spent a couple days in Athens. Went to the Acropolis, climbed it. By the way, it's marble, and I'm not just talking about the building, the floor. I mean, the rocks are pure marble. I don't know how anybody would ever go there in the rain, and I almost feel like the ancient Greeks, designed it like that so that if their enemies were coming, all they really needed to do was throw some water on the floor and they'd slip. I mean, it was a rough climb in that thing, but we did it. We had a blast. Greece is awesome. Then we went to a great little island called Chios for a wedding. Had a blast on that island. It was a beautiful island just off the coast of Turkey, even though it's a Greek island. You could see Turkey. It's like 8 miles away. And I did want to go to Turkey, but the ferry schedule was a little iffy. And I didn't want to deal with it because we had things to do while we were on Chios. We had events to attend. And then I had a flight back to Athens. And then we flew. Once you're in Europe, it's pretty easy to travel around Europe and relatively inexpensive compared to the United States. And we were thinking about going to another Greek island. We decided to go to Amsterdam instead because you could go anywhere. And there were a lot of great flights home from Amsterdam, so back to New York. So I took the opportunity to go to Amsterdam. And I have a theory. First thing, let me say, if you're saying you went to Amsterdam to get high, you can get high in New York now, right? On any street corner, there is a licensed marijuana dealer. Actually, marijuana is illegal in Amsterdam. People don't know. It's just tolerated. They just don't prosecute it because they think it's stupid to prosecute it. But they have such a difficult process of getting things through the legislature, they've never changed the law. But it is fully illegal in Amsterdam, even though it is very much legal almost everywhere else in the Western world at this point. And I didn't go there for that. So I don't even drink. So for those of you thinking that's where my wife and I went there to just kind of check it out. It's a cool city. And by the way, it's a very cool city. A lot of great museums. People bike everywhere. We rode bikes out into the countryside. Saw windmills, saw a cheese farm and dams and dikes. And, it was awesome. It was really, really awesome. But I do want to share with you my theory on the Dutch pancake. You may have heard me say that I'm really looking forward to going to Amsterdam because I want to try their pancakes. Because their pancakes first of all, they're delicious. But here's my theory. As you probably know, Napoleon conquered Holland, right? He conquered Holland, during his time in the 1800s. And for a couple of years, Holland was ruled by Napoleon's brother, Louis Napoleon. No joke. That was his name. And the Dutch hated him, right? They hated him. And by the way, I'm using Amsterdam, the Dutch, and Holland interchangeably. It's just a thing. The place is now called the Netherlands. So, but Holland was basically the two counties that were Amsterdam and the one county adjacent to Amsterdam. But he took over, and they hated him. They just absolutely hated him. If you go to the museums, and I went to the museums when I was there, you realize how much they hated Napoleon's brother. But they probably liked the French crepes, right? That Napoleon didn't do much for them, but he did introduce the French crepes to them. So when William of Orange and Cromwell and the Prussians defeated Napoleon at Waterloo, which is just south of Amsterdam, they kicked the French out, but they really liked crepes, right? So they created a pancake that's a lot like a crepe, except for it's not folded. And you know how when you get a crepe, they put you want to get apples in it or blueberries, they put it in the middle. In Amsterdam, what they do is they cook it into the pancake. So what you wind up having is basically a slightly thicker crepe that's not folded. And it is bigger. It's a very big pancake. And it was delicious. But that was my theory on it because I heard so much about the pancakes there. And I got there. I was like, oh, this is because they hate the French. Kind of like when we had our problem with the French back during the second Gulf War, or the first Gulf War, one of the Gulf Wars. We decided that for a little while, French fries would be named freedom fries. Right? It's just kind of a ridiculous thing. But, you get so much out of traveling, right? You see the world. You look back on America in a different lens. I watched, international news while I was out and away. I didn't do a lot of it. But when I did, I tried to watch the BBC or I watched, whatever they had in Amsterdam. It was an English language program. News program. I watched a little bit of it, and America really is the center of the world. I mean, everywhere I went in Greece, even in that little island, everybody spoke English for the most part. It's a privilege to be an American and to travel the world, which I've been doing more and more over the last 6 years, and very much enjoy it, and I highly encourage if you can afford it. To do it. I didn't miss the politics while I was gone. I really didn't. I missed my dogs. I missed my kids. But my kids are older and they weren't coming with us. And that's one of the benefits of getting older, right? You get to travel a little bit better, a little bit nicer, because you're not bringing 4 people with you. So it's an interesting thing. So, let's talk about Trump's 6-month mark and what we can expect going forward. I mean, Donald Trump has been president for 6 months. To me, it feels like he has been president for 6 years. It's been a wild 6 months. I mean, I don't know if you're exhausted. I am exhausted by him. I really I'm going to talk about my break. I needed the break, right? I needed it. I needed a break from him. I did for a minute worry that I wouldn't be able to get back into the country, but I had no problem getting back into the country. And if anything, I got to tell you, it was my easiest trip through customs, I think, ever. I used the mobile customs thing, the mobile app. I highly encourage you to use that. I don't know if that's what made it better. I think it did because they use facial recognition software with it. It's really, really good. I mean, I didn't get the global entry thing that so many people got. Man, I just breezed through. I mean, I didn't even wait. I mean, there was a line, but the line moved. It was booming. But 6 months, I mean, when I was asked to go on the air, I went on the air the other day to talk about Trump at the 6 months mark. I couldn't believe it's only been 6 months. I mean, logically, no, it's only been 6 months. But, when you just think about it, it just feels like forever. People ask me, well, what was his accomplishment? What was his accomplishment the first 6 months? Well, he had some accomplishments. We can't say he didn't have accomplishments. We might not like the accomplishments. I don't like his big, ugly bill. I don't like it. But he did get it through, right? It's going to raise the debt. It's going to hurt poor people. It's going to close hospitals. It's going to make it more expensive to get insurance. But he got it done. Got his cabinet through. I don't like his cabinet. He got probably the most unqualified cabinet in the history of cabinets through. He got it through. And again, he won't be held accountable at the polls for this. I mean, maybe a future Congress will hold him accountable in some way, shape, or form. I don't think he'll be impeached again. But Republicans running for Congress will be held accountable for Donald Trump. They will have to answer for their role in enabling Donald Trump at the polls next year. And it's funny. It is so funny. I've only been home for a couple of days from Europe, and I'm still kind of a little jet lagged. So if I sound a little loopy, if I'm a little off, please just give me a break. Okay. But I've done 3 television appearances in the 2 days I've been back. And in every television appearance that I have done, I have been asked the same question, even though the appearances have had nothing to do with, the presidential election of 2028. I have been asked, who do I think the Democratic nominee will be in 2028? And part of the reason why I am constantly asked this, and I will probably be asked this every time I go on television between now and the nominee being picked. Okay. Maybe not every time, because there's some hosts that, they want to talk about other things. But I think it's because, people are trying to say, what's up with the Democratic Party? What's their message? What do they stand for, right? And we've had this conversation. You've been listening to this podcast for the last 6 months, and a lot of you have been, and I really appreciate it. You know that my feeling is that the Democrats need to come up with a couple of core issues. Not a lot, not a laundry list, 3 or 4, maybe 5 at most. And they need to be broadly appealing, and they need to be simple to understand and message. Right? Donald Trump said he was going to close the border. Right? That was his message. People liked it. They voted for him. Mondami in New York City said he was going to lower prices, lower the cost of living, make New York City more affordable. People connected with that message. It was a simple, easy to understand message. The Democrats going into 2026 in the midterms, and then, of course, in 2028 for the presidential election, need to have a simple, easy to understand message. They can't be getting bogged down in the minutia of policy that voters do not really care about unless their opponents use it as an attack point, as a wedge. And I think that's what caught Democrats up. And by the way, the other point I'll make about it is whatever issue that they decide on, they need to fight. Right? I always point to the trans issue in 2024. I don't think she lost because of the trans issue. I know a lot of people want to, pin that on the reason why she lost. That's not why she lost. There were a lot of reasons why she lost. That's not the reason. The reason why she lost on that particular issue is because she didn't fight for what she believed in vigorously on it. She hid from it. If you believe in something, you need to fight for it. You need to show voters every single day that you are a fighter. They want fighters. A lot of voters polled after the election, they said Trump was a fighter. They didn't agree with everything he was fighting for, but the things that they did agree with him on, they knew he would fight for. And even if they agreed with more of Harris's agenda, they didn't think she was going to fight for it because she didn't show a lot of fight. Now, she showed a lot of fight in that debate, but that wasn't enough. I keep having these conversations about Mondami in New York City and the election. And, why he won, what's going to happen now. Well, it's going to be a four-way race in New York City, which means the Republican, Curtis Sliwa, who I used to do radio with, and I actually like personally. He's a little nutty, but so am I. I think he actually has a lane. It's a very narrow lane, but he's got a lane to get elected. He got 28.5% of the vote 4 years ago against Eric Adams. If he got 28.5% of the vote this year, and the Democratic candidates split the remainder of the vote, he wins. Just with that. Just without getting another vote. I don't think Republicans are going to be voting for Cuomo. I don't think Republicans are going to be voting for Adams. I actually think Adams is going to get a very small share of the vote. And then it comes down to the three-way race between Mondami, Cuomo, and Sliwa. But I get asked about that race a lot. And what's going to happen there? And why did the guy win? Well, one of the reasons he won, and I said it, he had a simplified message about affordability. But his opponents, particularly Cuomo, they weren't out. They weren't out in the public. They weren't seen as fighters. And Cuomo is a fighter. I mean, anybody who's ever worked with him over the years and seen him as governor and attorney general and a HUD secretary, he's a fighter. But he didn't show the voters that fight in the primary. And if he wants to win in the general election, he's got to, throw caution to the wind. And he's got to go and connect with voters one-on-one. And he's got to be out there. He's got to be doing a lot of interviews. And, he's got to face some of the tough questions head on and have answers for them. That's just, my belief. And I think that, Mondami, on the other hand, when he was running as a kid, right? 33 years old, whatever he is. Not a kid, I guess. He's 33 years old, and he was taking on all comers. And, Trump might be looking at this as, this is going to be my bogeyman if he wins, and he's going to be the guy I'm going to attack. I would be very careful if I was Donald Trump because, I don't know, Mondami is a talented politician. You might not like his politics. You might not like it at all. You might be listening to me. You might be some conservative listening to me. And you might think, I don't like his politics. You probably don't even know about his politics. You just heard he's a Democratic socialist, right? You don't like it. But you like Bernie. Bernie's a Democratic socialist. He's a talented politician. He ran one of the coolest campaigns I've seen in years, since Bill Clinton. People wanted to be a part of it. Since Obama. It was like Obama in a lot of ways. People wanted to be a part of it. It was like Trump in a lot of ways. People wanted to be a part of it. I keep getting, he wants to have public grocery store. Government-owned grocery stores. That's not even true. New York City has a problem that a lot of rural communities have where there are food deserts, right? There are neighborhoods in New York City where it's very hard to get fresh produce and have a grocery store. And for years, politicians have been saying they're going to try to solve that problem. I'm going to work with this grocery store, that grocery store. What Mondami is saying is, hey, you know what? I'm going to put some money into it, and I'm going to make sure these stores get open. What he's probably going to wind up having to do is partner with a regular grocery store. But it'll be subsidized. There's a reason why grocery stores are not going into these neighborhoods because they don't believe they're profitable. So if you want to solve the problem of making sure people have healthy meals in those neighborhoods, you got to do something about it. And he's saying this is what he's going to do. He's not saying he's going to privatize. He's going to make every grocery store in New York City a government-run grocery store. That's not what he's saying at all. But that's what, Republicans are saying about him. Meanwhile, you go to rural red states where there are small communities. There are right now state-run grocery stores, including states like Florida, right? So there are, this is not like he's not the first person to think of this. This is not bringing Russian grocery stores to the United States, as some people are trying to suggest. That's not what he's doing. And again, I'm not saying I support him. I'm not saying who I support in the New York City race. I want to see what happens. I don't vote in the New York City race. I'm just gonna comment on it. But I'm telling you right now, the guy is talented, and he seems to be the only one really campaigning for mayor right now. Eric Adams says he's running for mayor. I haven't seen much. He's running a Rose Garden campaign. Andrew Cuomo is still running a Rose Garden campaign after his Rose Garden campaign failed. Slee was down in the subways, but he's been down in the subways since the 1970s. Okay? Mondami's campaigning. He's going to the Wu-Tang Clan concert and being cheered, applauded by 30,000 people. I don't know. I believe if you're running for office, you should appear in office. And I believe if you don't have a Rose Garden, you shouldn't be running a Rose Garden campaign. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn. So, finally, I know I know it's been a while. You guys haven't heard from me in a while. You want me to talk more. You want me to tell you more of what I'm thinking. But, honestly, again, it's been a couple of weeks of nothing really going on but that damn Epstein thing. And again, Trump has handled it all wrong. He has handled it all wrong. If he had just basically said, hey, I'm leaving this up to the attorney general, but there are legal reasons why we can't release things, maybe people would have moved on. Maybe. I don't know. You shouldn't be making promises about things that... Donald Trump was friends with the guy. He was quoted in reports 20 years ago, before anybody knew about any of the wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein. Quoted saying, well, the guy loves beautiful women almost as much as I do, and he really likes them young. This Trump said this, right? So, it quoted. So, of course, he might be on some list of somebody who knows Jeffrey Epstein or was on his plane. Again, America, there were probably a lot of people on that plane that were not engaged in any criminal activity. And what the right really wants is they want a list that says, oh, look, Bill Clinton was on the plane. Well, we also know Bill Clinton was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. We already know that, right? Oh, so what does that mean? So if they're both on some list, the same list, then you can't get mad at Clinton and not get mad at Trump. There may not even be a list, America. And right now, the other thing we should all be asking for, everybody wants to, release this file, release that file. I'm for transparency in this. Release whatever you can, but don't hurt the victims, please. There are a lot of women who were abused as minors by this guy, and we can't forget that. And they shouldn't have their pain continued just for our curiosity, right? I don't want that at all. But barring that, release whatever you got. And there's another thing we should be talking about. There's a woman sitting in jail named Ghislaine Maxwell who was his associate. And perhaps inviting her to testify in front of Congress in an open session wouldn't be a bad idea, so that we can hear directly from her and then put this whole thing to bed. But again, I'm more concerned about issues that are going to move this country forward. I am more concerned about fighting to restore the cuts to Medicaid that Trump and the Republicans gave. I'm more concerned about making sure rural hospitals can operate. And by the way, if you don't think a rural hospital is important to you, there are rural hospitals in areas you don't think are so rural. Medicaid cuts are going to hit hospitals hard, and it's going to make it harder for you to get health care, not just in rural communities, but in, maybe not true suburbs, but in exurbs, which a lot of people are living in these days. Exurbs are becoming more like suburbs every single day. I mean, those are the issues that we should be talking about. Those are the issues that are going to matter to voters the most. And, we need to show that we're going to fight for them. Who is going to fight for me? That is the question voters want answered. That was the question we couldn't answer in 2024. We did not appear to be the fighter. It is, I think it's as simple as that. I think, and again, I think you fight. You stand up. Trump fights for things that are not necessarily popular all the time, particularly his own comfort. And we're cutting hundreds of millions of dollars from, rural hospitals, yet we're increasing Trump's security forces at a tune of $300 million a year so that we can protect his golf courses, by the way. Not necessarily the Secret Service that's around him 24/7, but the properties he goes to once in a while. We're getting added security in the budget that just got passed. You might want to ask your congressman about that, about why that's more important. You might want to ask your congressman, why do we need 3 times as many ICE agents who are supposed to go after criminals and who are rounding up gardeners and cooks and people who have been living here their entire life and are good, upstanding members of the community who've done nothing wrong, even coming into the country. I know people, they came in illegally. Yes. I mean, we need a better process. That's not what we voted for. It's not what a lot of Trump voters voted for. They didn't vote to have masked men, and why they have to wear masks is beyond me. Just grab people off the street, including a lot of Americans, by the way. I mean, every day I see another story about an American citizen who was dragged off the street, including veterans, by ICE. They try to explain that they are Americans, and they do not care. Takes them a couple of days to get it sorted out, if they're lucky. And by the way, they were probably injured in this as well. I don't know why we need more of that. And we're going to pay them $100,000 a year when the average salary for a teacher is $45,000 a year? What is the deal here? Where are our priorities? Democrats need to talk about priorities, prioritizing American families over all else. Simple. Easy. Don't get bogged down in minutia. All right. Well, I hope you're happy to have me back. I'm happy to be back. I do miss my trip. I had a lot of fun. But, there'll be another trip another day. If we were on trips all the time, they wouldn't be as fun. And they wouldn't be as memorable. So I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth, question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again real soon to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for joining me on the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.